Yo, 2012 Chevy Malibu. The car died on the victim driving down the road. This is a code it's pulling, and it's a crank no start. Thankfully it doesn't run, because if it did, these are impossible to diagnose. This is a twin cam 4-cylinder, so there's two camshaft sensors. There's an A sensor and a B sensor. Normally an A sensor on a 4-cylinder is always the intake manifold side or the intake camshaft, and then the B is going to be in the rear. And this oil-filled thing is the B sensor, I think. Wow, look at all that oil on there. And this should be the A sensor. So I'm going to try to diagnose this thing. This is a 3-wire Hall effect sensor. So what that means is there's a 5-volt reference signal that goes in here, and then there's basically, they call it a low reference. It's just basically a ground, and it basically just produces an electromagnet. So it can pick up the sensing lead that works off of, like, I think there's 4 reluctors in the camshaft. So every 2 revolutions of the engine, it'll read like 4 times. So the orange wire is the sensing lead on the front. I'm gonna take a T-pin and stick it in here right through the waterproofing. It'll stay waterproofed after I poke this thing in here. I want to make sure it goes in far enough to where it's touching the connector inside the wire, so I don't have to poke a hole in the wire. I got a graphing meter here. I'm going to put the black on the ground and the yellow on the T-pin. And I'm just going to do a key-on engine cranking test. The speed's at 1 second, 10 volts, so it should read 5. And if it was actually a running car, I would want to speed that up probably to about 200. But when it's cranking over, it's so slow, 1 second's fine. If you don't have one of these fancy snap-on jobbies and you got to set one up your own way, I'm just going to crank the engine over. And what's going on there? Sounds like I got a dead battery or something. Well, I might as well check the rear sensor since I'm in here, because sometimes generic scan tools can mix up the two and send you down the wrong road. So there's a yellow-black wire. My wiring diagram says that's a signal wire on the rear, but I don't think so. I think it's that green one down on the bottom. So I T-pinned that. I'm going to try this again. So I got a no start, and I have a camshaft sensor code, but apparently it's working. Well, it's time to go old school, I guess. Check fuel, check spark. There's a hose clamp. I can see down this little crack right here. I'm gonna put some flammable junk down the throttle body. That did absolutely nothing. 10 millimeter on the coil. I know it's not a fuel problem, so I'm gonna stick my little bug zapper on here. See if this thing actually has a spark. I'm gonna go with no. Well, it's getting plenty spark. Maybe I didn't put enough flammable junk down the engine to make it start. Took the coils out, pulled the spark plugs. They're all nice and shiny and soaking wet. So it's definitely getting fuel. I looked down in the cylinders and they are all nice and wet. Now that I did all of that, I'm assuming that camshaft code is just a dummy code because it's GM. Took out the front oxygen sensor, bank 1. That looks pretty disturbing. Look at that, it's all funky looking. That don't look right. What's going on there? I'm kind of figuring maybe it's not getting any air, like the exhaust is plugged. I look down in here with my camera and the substrate looks like it's pretty good. So, gee, what's going on with this car? Did a back pressure test on the exhaust, came up with nothing. Maybe the timing jumped or something. Usually when that happens on these, though, it pulls a camshaft correlation code of some kind. This thing's got plenty of fuel pressure. I'm pretty sure the victim just cranked it over forever and just flooded it out and now it won't run. I'm going to try to clean out the cylinders and maybe it'll run again because I can't find anything wrong with this darn thing. If I go on the driver's side of the trunk, I found a fuse box. And says fuel pump is relay number 37. So that's this relay right here. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to turn this thing over until it runs out of fuel pressure and it dries up the cylinders, and hopefully it'll just run all of the excess fuel out of here, and then I'll try to run the thing. I'm going to hold the throttle wide open too. Well, that's pretty interesting. It's not supposed to be flying out of the throttle body like that. I think we have a timing chain issue. I'm going to take that valve cover off. Something ain't right. Oh yeah, something's broke in here. This thing skipped a bunch. I can totally move this chain right off. It's really, really loose. You can see down in there the driven side guide on the front is completely gone. The tensioner side still looks good, which is the rear, the firewall side. It's leak down test time. Both of these cam lobes have the valves closed. Intake valves leaking. They're bent. I got this set at 40%. And I'm going to go over here. This cam lobe is actually open a little bit. I'm getting the same reading. I can actually move this cam a little because it's kind of junky. I can open and close the exhaust. I don't even hear any change at all, and it's just coming right out the intake. That chain guide is going to be down in the oil pan, probably in a million pieces. What a mess. It'd need a valve job and a timing chain if I'm going to fix this thing, and I probably got to drop the oil pan out of it. So anyways, that's how you diagnose the thing without throwing any parts at it. I don't know if I'm going to be putting an engine in this or what. Yeah, I'm going to call this a video. Okay, bye.